robot just folded someone's laundry in a demo video, and the company behind it is worth $39 billion. Another company just raised $1.4 billion to build robot brains. A third is taking $20,000 pre-orders for a home robot that, well, we'll get to that. But have we seen this movie before? Half of the tech world is screaming bubble, while the other half is screaming scam. So which is it? Are VCs funding the future of labor, or are they funding a $2 billion demo reels with no path to actually making money? To be honest, both things can be true at the same time, because there are actually 3 robotic markets happening right now. Some of them are real, fundable, and already generating revenue, but some are pure optionality, betting billions on a future that might be 5 years away and worth trillions, or that might never happen. If you cannot tell which is which, you're going to lose a lot of money as an investor and as a founder. So let's break down what's actually happening. And before we start, please consider subscribing. I publish a new video every week, taking you behind the scenes of the VC world. Thank you. In 2025, if you looked at where robotics capital was actually deployed, the majority went into 3 categories. Robots that do specific jobs and generate revenue today, robot brains that might become the foundation layer, and humanoids that are getting all the attention. Once you split the market properly, the confusion disappears. You can see exactly which parts look like infrastructure, which parts look like risky but rational bets, and which part looks like bubble dynamics. So let's talk through all 3. First is vertical robots. Currently the only fully mature segment. Industrial robots are widely deployed in welding, assembly, painting, and handling processes across manufacturing lines. This is what you imagine when you think of manufacturing robots, huge arms, and specialized for tasks. These are robots that do one job in one environment. They replace an existing line item on a budget. They deploy, stay deployed, and get paid. No grand claims about general intelligence, no promises about 2030, just machines that slot into existing workflow and make it cheaper, safer, or more reliable. This often looks unglamorous, but deeply practical. But there is also more and more early-stage activity as robotic parts and robotic arms are getting significantly cheaper to build and to purchase. The average cost of an industrial robot has fallen drastically, with data indicating an 80% decrease since the 90s. This means the barrier to starting these companies has gone, and we are seeing lots of younger founders and more innovative startups here. Take Loki, for example. Instead of trying to build a general-purpose humanoid, Loki is focused on a single, surprisingly hard problem: cleaning like a person. High contact, high variation environment. Swapping tools, applying chemicals precisely, physically interacting with fixtures and objects. It's building the autonomous backbone of facility operations by mastering one narrow task exceptionally well in environments where reliability matters more than flexibility. Our own investment at Lobster Capital in Flywheel AI fits the same pattern. Flywheel doesn't replace excavators with futuristic robots. It converts existing excavators contractors already own. The initial value is immediate: remote operations that increase safety and productivity. But the real compounding advantage comes later. Every teleoperated excavator becomes a data collecting engine, generating the datasets needed to train autonomous policies. It's exactly what Tesla did with its cars. Deployment creates revenue and learning at the same time. As these companies scale, the pattern becomes even clearer. Go vertical and execute exceptionally well, and there is money to be made. And these vertical robotic startups are making it to late-stage valuation too. Gecko Robotics, valued at $1.2 billion in 2025, uses robots to inspect critical infrastructure like power plants and pipelines. That work used to require shutdowns, scaffolding, and human inspectors in dangerous conditions. Gecko cuts inspection times by 90%, and the ROI is obvious to the buyer. This isn't a speculative future, it's infrastructure spending today. Exotech, valued at $2 billion in Series C, built the Skypod system for 3D warehouse automation. It doesn't try to solve robotics as a category. It optimizes storage density and peaking speed for retailers who already have massive warehouse budgets. The robot is designed specially for the warehouse. And even further ahead is Locus Robotics, who raised a $117 million Series F, followed a similar part in e-commerce fulfillment, deploying autonomous mobile robots under a robot as a service model. The common thread is that boring is the best way, and the companies winning here are just solving expensive problems for customers who can pay today. The second market is where things get slightly more ambiguous. It might seem paradoxical that we have robots capable of backflips, like Boston Dynamics, and precision warehouse sorting, like Locust, while the brains to make them truly general purpose are still in their infancy. The reason lies in the fundamental difference between athletic intelligence and the general intelligence. Companies like Locust and Gecko Robotics are vertical because they solve a narrow, specific problem. For Locust, the brain only needs to understand a flat warehouse floor, barcode locations, and how to avoid hitting a human. This is a solved geometric problem. For Gecko, their robots are designed for industrial inspections like climbing tanks, pipes. The intelligence here is mostly high-end sensors and mechanical adherence with magnets and suctions, not abstract reasoning. In contrast, a robot brain startup is trying to solve the generalization problem. How to make a robot enter a kitchen it has never seen and figure out how to peel a potato using a tool it has never held. In 2025, massive capital went to build foundation models for this. On paper, the logic makes sense. If AI models can learn to control robotic systems through simulations and video, you could build a general-purpose intelligence layer that works across different hardware platforms. That would be enormously valuable. And the funding frenzy followed immediately. General Intuition secured one of the largest seed rounds ever at $133 million in November. Field AI hit a $2 billion valuation. Renowned AI scientist Yann LeCun launched Advanced Machine Intelligence in December, reportedly seeking over a $5 billion valuation for his seed round. And just last week, Skilled AI raised that $1.4 billion Series C. That's a staggering amount of capital going into foundation models for robotics. But Google and NVIDIA have also been building here. Google announced a new team that works on AI models that simulate the physical world. And NVIDIA unveiled Cosmos, trained on 20 million hours of video. If robot intelligence becomes something you buy via an API, the first mover advantage collapses. This is exactly what happened with language models. 2 years ago, everyone thought they needed to build their own LLM, massive rounds got raised, and then OpenAI and Anthropic started selling API access, open source models got good enough for most use cases, and suddenly all of those proprietary models companies had to pivot or to die. The same dynamic could play out in robotics here. If these models become commodities that anyone can license, then the companies raising billions to build their own robot brains might find themselves competing in a brutally commoditized market. So, robot brains are important. They absolutely are. But there is a chance it becomes infrastructure that everyone uses, but nobody pays premium prices for. This is why huge valuation can still fail even when the technology works. That said, there is a real bull case for companies like Skill. The universe is a chaotic, sticky, unpredictable jerk, while a model like NVIDIA's Cosmos is an incredible physics simulator that understands the idea of how a potato should be peeled. It's still just playing a very high-end video game. The startups like Skilled are betting that the real magic and the real money isn't in the simulation, but in what is called embodied data. They believe that you cannot just think your way into being a robot, you have to do it. If they can collect enough data on the millions of tiny, weird, physical microfailures that happen in the real world, the things that AI cannot simulate, they'll own a data moat so deep that no generic API can touch it. And this is less of a bubble. There is a demand for this right now. The business proposition is essentially a race to build physics as a service monopoly. If they can solve the long tail, the weird, messy 1% of reality that simulations cannot predict, they become the indispensable OS for every moving thing on the planet. And then, well, there's Humanoids. You've seen the videos, I'm sure. The Tesla Optimus walking through the factory floor, sorting objects, doing squats, figure robots working on the BMW assembly line, and of course, the Neo puttering around someone's living room. These videos rack up millions of views, and the promise that comes with them are absolutely massive. Will we never have to work again? Will we have humanoid workers in our homes folding laundries and making coffee? Are we 5 years away from a world where robots handle every manual task while humans just focus on creative work? The companies certainly pitch it that way. Figure raised that 39 billion valuation with the explicit vision of replacing human labor at scale. 1X is taking interest at a 10 billion valuation, and Elon's talking about Optimus becoming bigger than Tesla's car business. The narrative is world-changing, and that's where the bubble conversation belongs. Let me be clear, humanoids are not fake. The technology is real, the progress is real, and the companies building them are legitimate. But they are early, fragile, expensive to deploy, and wildly overrepresented in media relative to their current revenue. So, what happened? Well, much like vertical robots, the cost of building a humanoid robot has plummeted by roughly 40% in the last few years, driven by better actuators, cheaper sensors, and AI that can actually handle more complex controls. In 2025, companies like Unitree launched models for as low as $5,900, which is reaching price parity with manual labor much faster than anyone anticipated. That sounds like progress, and in some ways it is. But now you have tons of startups going after this market. In China alone, we have seen 150 new companies emerge in 2025, many of them producing nearly identical hardware with no clear path to revenue. China's government has explicitly warned about an impending shakeout where most of these companies will fail. And the reason is simple. While these robots look incredible in demos, they're still intensely impractical to deploy at scale. Battery life is too short for a full work shift, and safety systems aren't reliable enough to operate around humans without constant supervision. And critically, there's not enough real-world training data to make them work autonomously in everyday environments. This is where the scam accusations come from. There's a massive gap between what these companies show in controlled demos and what they can actually deliver to a paying customer. When 1X Neo charges $20,000 for a home robot, but the demos are 100% teleoperated by a human in a VR headset, that's a massive credibility gap. Likewise, when Figure shows polished videos but faces whistleblower lawsuits about safety claims, that's another credibility gap. But what happens when that gap disappears? For VCs, this is optionality investing, not revenue investing. When venture investors are looking at these companies, the valuation isn't pricing today's robot. It's pricing a future where payroll gets replaced. And if that future happens, the market isn't software scale, it's civilization scale. Factories, warehouses, logistics, retail, eventually homes. Quite literally trillions of dollars. So investors are underwriting a very specific bet that being early to data collection, hardware deployment, and real-world learning will pay off 1,000x if they're patient enough. Unlike software, the thing about robotics is you need them deployed to learn and collect data. This is why Figure's valuation makes sense within a certain framework. They're not selling robots today. They're building a position to become the default suppliers of embodied labor in massive industries. They're betting that having years of real-world deployment data will create an insurmountable moat. Then, when those robots are eventually good enough, well, they can capture the approximately 500 million people employed in the manufacturing sector worldwide. Yes, this requires multiple unsolved problems to get solved. Safe locomotion around humans, dexterous manipulation across thousands of objects, perception in messy environments, real-time control, all-day uptime. But for some investors, that option is worth billions, even if the probability is low. So if you're trying to evaluate a robotics company, whether you're an investor or thinking about working there, you need to think, does deployment create a learning loop that compounds faster than the company burns cash? If yes, you're looking at infrastructure. If no, you're looking at demo economics. There's a phrase that captures this. In robotics, deployment is distribution and distribution is data. So is robotics a bubble? Parts of it, absolutely. Humanoids specifically have bubble dynamics. Massive valuation based on aspirational timelines. 150 companies building similar hardware in China alone. A gap between demos and deployability that's measured in years, not months. But robotics as a category? No. Labor scarcity is definitely real, and automation budgets are real and only getting bigger. The question isn't whether or not robotics will transform the economy. It will. The question is, which companies will survive long enough to see it happen. The companies that figure out how to turn deployment into data, data into better models, and better models into a defensible business, they'll own the future. The ones that just keep burning cash on increasingly polished demos will be the punchline in a case study of a failed innovation. But honestly, I hope they figure it out, because between you and me, wouldn't it be nice to never fold clothes again? Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and see you next week.